So this is the continue testing of the 25 mega. I'm shooting a 26-inch barrel with a 134 grain ELD at 3.2 inches cartridge overall length. My original tranche had 6 powders that I was testing for basically pressure to see if it even liked that powder and or that bullet combination. So the picture that I showed last time, the groups were not, they were indicative of the powder charges. The powder charges were 1.5 grain difference between each other. So wasn't shooting for groups, mostly just shooting to see if it did like the powder. And if it got a good group, that was great. This test, I've narrowed it down to 4 powders. And one of the things that I learned from the first test was that Retumbo and 570 were over pressure. The brass measurements indicated that as well. So I'm continuing to learn from this. I'm also using GRT. There'll be a video out on it, but I'm also looking for those who have experience with their suggestions as well. So up next is the groups. These were fired 3 shots each for the charge weights. So for example, up first was 570, and that was 66.5. That netted an average of 3,188 feet per second with a 7.7 SD. Then moving up was 67 grains. That averaged 3,216 feet per second with a 12.1 SD. And then finally, 67.5 was 3237 with a 9 SD. And then the battery went dead, so I had to reposition everything. Up top was the H1000, 64.5 grains. That netted 3,154 feet per second with a 7.3 SD. Then we bumped it up to 65. It was 3,178 feet per second with a 6 SD. And then the 65.5 netted an average of 3,195 feet per second with an SD of 12.6. So overall, pretty solid SDs and continued velocity increase there. Up next is Retumbo. This is a phenomenal group. That's 3 shots at 65 grains at 3,194 feet per second with a velocity of SD rather of 0.9. If you notice, the 65.5 aiming at the same dot elevation wise changed by an inch or so. It netted velocity of 32,017 with an SD of 3. And then if you look at 66, it went up even further in elevation. Had a velocity of 3,239 with an SD of 9. So again, good velocity, good SDs, but the elevation changes were crazy. That's not consistent to me. That's not something I want. V568 was 3,026, SD of 13. The velocity never really increases all that much as you go through here. 66 gave us 3,051, and then the 66.5 gave us 3,076. I mean, they're incremental changes, but it's not the velocity I'm looking for. And this was almost at max pressure too. So overall, I think I got some good information out of this, but definitely looking forward to your inputs, any suggestions. I'd love to try some 78-28. But other than that, I'll just keep testing. This is a barrel that's going to burn out in like 800 rounds or so. So I'm not looking for the utmost accuracy. If I could get something that's consistent across 1.5 grain at, say, a 1/2-inch group, I'd be happy with it. I am going to change bullets and continue to try Retumbo 570 and H1000.